This is the Canon SX710HS. The video of this camera is shot on my similarly outdated camera on my Samsung A25 cell phone. This Canon camera once took hundreds, maybe even thousands of man-hours to develop. The body was designed by someone with expertise on the subject, the aperture was chosen by a well-educated team who had discussions on what was possible and what was beneficial. Its production assuredly had to be coordinated with manufacturers over the course of long meetings and trainings. A marketing team had to figure out where to advertise it and how. Yet, when it had released in January of 2015, it wasn't considered anything spectacular, with some even claiming that it wasn't very inspiring. And today, this piece of equipment is rarely talked about at all, if ever. It's entirely outdated, and it's even outclassed by the majority of cell phone cameras. So what happens now? What happens to the outdated? Why purchase the outdated? Especially when all of the used prices on this camera are starting at around $300. This camera does not exude low quality in a quote-unquote aesthetic way like some earlier cameras do. To many, the images and video are just ugly with the eyes of today. For Canon, what reason do they have to continue to develop a camera like this? The components are no longer cheap to make simply because they aren't being made in mass. Ironically, this makes its outdated components more expensive to make if you were to do so nowadays. And so Canon does not continue to make this camera. The camera is no longer receiving software updates, with the last one taking place in the final months of 2016. But a story like this is not unique. This is the story of the majority of cameras, and it will continue to be the story of the majority of cameras heading into the future. Every single camera ever produced was the fruit born of many different people's very hard work. And this is not unique to cameras. This can be said of most things that have been manufactured. Yet, when the time comes, the bell tolls, and the product is brought to its grave. What reason is there to care? Why should anyone look back on the corpses of our own creations that are buried by our own apathy? Most people wouldn't think twice about throwing away this camera. Some more thoughtful people might put it in an electronics recycling container, but who's to say what happens then? Most of these will end up in landfills, slowly rotting away in soil that is harmful to most life. Even the recycled ones won't have most of their components reused. Why am I making a video talking about a camera such as this? Well, simply because it is. It is here, and I have one. This product I hold in my hand is the representation of all the work that was required to make it. Because somebody wanted to make this, and enough people wanted to buy it that now I have it. This is something that often feels lost as a result of our nature. To be out with the old and in with the new is not a new idea. It is the nature of humanity to develop new things which will inevitably kill the old things. Nowadays, the acceleration of that idea is akin to drowning in it. Many of us are so caught up in spending and experiencing new that we will throw away what is undesirable to make room for something that we will one day view as undesirable. You might care about some things you might have, but when you're gone, will your descendants? And will their descendants care? I once had a conversation with my wife, where we had put forward the hypothetical that if one of us were to require a life-saving surgery that would bankrupt us, what decision would we make? And I had never felt more stupid than I had when I realized that a younger version of myself had a debate on the subject. I could not believe that at one point I was so bought into our own systems that I would ever think of not going through with it. It was an important moment of clarity and the first steps towards this script. I urge you not to look at the things in your possession that you have a fondness for. Instead, look for the antiquated. Look for the things you haven't sought out in a rather long time. Think on the beauty of what they might represent and take a moment on how you arrived in a situation where this was thought of as useless to you. It is not that there is no place for new things in the life that we live, but perhaps we need not obtain more and more with such haste. This video is my attempt, and maybe the start of yours. I don't need a new camera. I have a camera. Why not use it for something?